1. Introduction. My name is Maria. I am 50 years old. I work in a very big and famous theater in the city center. My job is to fix the clothing for the actors. I am a seamstress. I work far away from the stage, deep in the basement. The basement is dark and cold. The stone walls are always gray and damp, and the air smells old, like dust and old fabric. There are many large boxes and forgotten things stored here. This quiet place is where I spend all my working days. I sit at a big wooden table near a single, bright light. I look at many colors of thread. I spend hours fixing zippers, sewing buttons, and repairing tears in the heavy stage costumes. I use my hands constantly, making sure the beautiful clothes are ready for the show upstairs. The theater is very grand and bright on the upper floors, but down here, in the shadows, it is always quiet and cold. The young actors sometimes come quickly to the basement. They are beautiful and full of energy. They wear their bright costumes made of silk and gold. They talk loudly about the play, the audience, or their exciting parties. They do not look at me directly. They quickly put the torn clothes on my table. They say, "Fix this now, please." They often forget to say thank you or even hello. They see my hands working, but they do not see Maria. I feel like a simple, necessary object in this small room. I am part of the shadows on the wall. I am invisible to them. I have lived 50 years. 50 years is a long time. I have 2 children. They are adults now and they live in different cities far from me. My life is very simple now. I wake up, I travel to the basement, I sew, and I go home. I cook dinner for one person. This is my routine. It is a quiet life. Sometimes I feel lonely, but I thought this was the way life must be. When you are 50, you begin to believe that some things are finished. I believed that love and romance were finished for me. Those feelings and excitements are only for the young people. They are for the beautiful actors upstairs who are always laughing. My face has many lines now. My hair is gray, and I usually tie it back tightly in a bun. I wear comfortable, old clothes for my work. I thought the time for new stories was over. I believed my story was already written and complete. It was a simple story about work and quiet, lonely days. I believed this completely. I believed I would always be the invisible woman in the dark basement. I did not think that anyone important would ever notice me again. I did not know that life still had a big, surprising change waiting for me. I was very wrong about my future. 2. The new actor. One day, everything changed very quickly. Big news came to the theater. A new actor was joining our play. His name was Paul. He was a movie star, known all over the world. Paul was 60 years old. He was very famous because he had acted in many important films. Now he wanted to act on the stage again. The news made the whole theater change. All the young actors were excited. They spoke about Paul constantly. They were also nervous. Paul was a huge star, rich and very important. The cleaning staff worked extra hard to make everything perfect. The director looked stressed but happy. Everyone hoped the play would be a big success because of Paul. I stayed in my small basement room. I thought, a famous man like that will never come down here. I was wrong. Soon, Paul needed to try on his costume. He came down the stairs to the cold basement for his fitting. I felt my heart beat very fast. My hands started to shake a little as I picked up my tools. I had to help him try on the heavy velvet coat. Paul was very tall. He was handsome, with silver hair and kind blue eyes. I tried to look only at the fabric. I did not want to look at his face. I stood on a small wooden stool to fix the collar of his shirt. I worked carefully. Paul did not look at his phone, unlike the young actors who always rushed. He stood still and waited patiently. He looked directly at me. Then he spoke. His voice was deep and very warm. He said, "Thank you for your hard work." I stopped sewing immediately. I was frozen. No one had ever thanked me before. The young actors just threw their clothes at me and rushed away. Paul was different. His blue eyes looked kind and warm. He made me feel important. He did not treat me like just a pair of hands. He treated me like a person. I felt my face turn hot. I was very surprised by his kindness. I quickly finished the last stitches on his coat. I felt a new feeling inside me. It felt good to be noticed by such a great man. He smiled a warm smile. Then he walked back up the stairs. The quiet, damp basement felt different after he left. I sat down on my chair and kept thinking about his kind voice. This was the first time I felt truly seen. 3. Coffee and talk. Paul started to visit the basement every day. He came down the cold, stone stairs. He said the upstairs area was too loud for him. Many young actors and theater workers always wanted to speak to him. He needed a place to hide. The basement was perfect because it was quiet and dark. Nobody came to my sewing room except Paul. It quickly became our own secret place. He always brought 2 paper cups of coffee. He gave 1 cup to me. He sat on the old wooden chair next to my machine. He pretended to check his costume. "Is this sleeve still loose, Maria?" he would ask. I knew the sleeve was perfect, but I smiled. We spent a long time talking together. We talked about books. He liked reading stories about history, and I liked poems. We also talked about different kinds of music. Paul liked fast, happy jazz music. I liked soft, slow classical music. I felt shy when he was there. I am 50 years old, and I did not change my clothes for him. I wore my old, comfortable work dress. My hair was gray and tied up tight in a bun. I did not wear any makeup on my face. I thought I looked like an old, tired woman. but Paul did not see me this way. He looked directly at me when I spoke. He listened to every single word I said. This careful listening was new to me. Other people just gave orders and left. Paul wanted to know my thoughts. One afternoon, I told him a funny story about a costume problem I had years ago. I laughed. He smiled brightly. "You are very smart, Maria," he told me clearly. "And you have a beautiful laugh." When he said that, my face felt very hot. I felt like a young girl again, not a 50-year-old widow. I was happy, but a little embarrassed. We shared many hours and many secrets in that quiet room. A true friendship was growing between us. I realized that the famous actor was just a kind man, and he truly saw me. I stopped feeling invisible when Paul was in the room. I started to wait for the sound of his feet coming down the stairs every afternoon. The first kiss. It was the night before the big opening show. The theater was very quiet. The sounds of the city were far away. The large building felt empty now. I was the last person working. I stayed late to finish one special dress. The dress was red silk and needed many small stitches. I felt tired, but I needed to finish my job. Suddenly, the basement door opened with a small squeak. It was Paul. He looked very tired. He looked worried, too. He sat on the old chair near my table. He did not smile. "Maria," he said, his voice low, "I cannot remember my lines. I am afraid of the stage." He whispered his fear. He was a famous movie star, but he was just a man who felt nervous. I felt sympathy for him. He sat very close to me. I stopped working on the red dress. I put my hand on his hand. His skin was warm. I wanted to give him courage. "Paul," I said simply, "you are a wonderful actor. You are a wonderful person. Do not worry about the words. Just go on stage and be yourself." He did not speak. He just looked at my face. He looked deep into my two eyes. The air in the small, dark room changed. It felt heavy, like before a storm, but it was electric, full of new feeling. My heart beat quickly against my ribs. I felt like I was 20 years old again. He moved his head closer. He touched my cheek with his thumb. It was a soft, gentle touch. "I do not see a seamstress working in the shadows," he whispered to me. "I see a woman who understands my heart." Then he leaned forward. He kissed me slowly. The kiss was soft and long. It was full of kindness and love. It was my first kiss in many, many years. I felt a beautiful fire start inside my chest. When he moved back, he smiled. It was a tired but happy smile. "I feel much better now, Maria," he told me. "I must go home to rest for the show." He stood up and left the basement. I watched the door close. I touched my lips with my fingers. I did not go back to the red dress. I sat in the quiet room for a long time. I thought about Paul. I thought about how he saw me. He did not see wrinkles or gray hair. He saw me, Maria. I knew this was the start of something new. I was not invisible anymore. 5 at the hotel. After the gentle kiss in the theater, Paul looked at me. He asked me a question. He asked if I wanted to go with him, not home to my small apartment, but to his hotel. I felt a rush of strong emotion. I said yes immediately. I felt very nervous, but also very happy and excited. I thought about my age. I am 50 years old. I thought about my body and my face. I have wrinkles around my eyes and my mouth. I am not a thin model like the young women Paul usually sees. I felt shy and afraid that he would change his mind. But Paul held my hand tightly. His hand was warm and strong. His touch was very kind. All my small worries started to disappear. We took a taxi to the center of the city. The hotel was very large and very beautiful. Paul's room was high up on the top floor. It had a wonderful view of the city lights. The room was quiet and felt safe. Paul offered me a glass of red wine. We sat on a soft chair near the window. We started to talk. We talked for many hours. We talked about everything important to us. We talked about my 2 children and their lives far away. We talked about his life, but not his fame. He told me about his quiet dreams. He told me about his fears of getting older. He listened carefully to every word I said. He made me feel important. Paul looked at my hair. It was still tied up tight in the simple bun I wore every day at the theater. He moved closer. He gently took out the pins, one by one. My gray hair fell down around my shoulders. I felt the cool air on my neck. He smiled at me with his kind blue eyes. "You are truly beautiful, Maria," he said. His voice was a soft whisper. I felt my heart beat fast in my chest. I felt like a young woman again. We finished the wine. The city lights kept shining outside the window. We spent the night together. It was a simple, sweet, and calm night. For many years, for more than 20 years, I felt like I was invisible. I felt like nobody saw me. That night, I finally felt different. Paul saw the real Maria. He saw the woman, not the seamstress who fixed costumes. I felt truly loved for the first time in decades. It was a special night that changed everything. 6. The bad news. The morning after the special night brought trouble. Paul and I left the hotel. We left separately because Paul is famous. But it was not enough. A photographer was outside. He saw me getting into a taxi. He took a picture quickly. This picture would change everything for me and for Paul. We thought our secret was safe, but we were wrong. The photographer waited for me to leave and then took the photograph. The next day, the picture was in the newspaper. I did not buy the paper, but everyone at the theater saw it. The headline was large and shocking. It asked a question: "Famous star Paul with the seamstress." The newspaper showed my face next to Paul's name. This news was a big scandal. I felt sick when I heard about it. When I went to work in the basement, the atmosphere was different. It was not quiet anymore. Everyone in the theater was whispering. The young actors were looking at me. They were not running past me now. They stood still and looked. They were talking about the picture and about me. I tried to ignore them. I sat at my sewing machine, but I could not work. My hands shook. I felt the heat rise in my face. I wished I could become invisible again. Soon, the theater director came to the basement. He looked very angry. The director never came to the basement. He stood over me, looking down. His voice was cold and loud. He did not say hello. He only said my name, Maria. He told me that I was causing problems. He said that I was distracting Paul, the famous star. "You are just a worker," he said strictly. "This is a scandal for the theater. You must stay away from him." His words cut me deeply. I felt a terrible feeling of shame. The shame burned in my chest like fire. I felt small again, just like before Paul came into my life. I realized that to the director, I was still just the seamstress. I was not a woman who was loved. I did not say anything back to the director. I could not speak. I knew I could not stay there anymore. I put my thread and scissors away. I took my small bag. I did not walk through the main doors. I ran out the back door of the theater, leaving my job and my hope behind. I ran through the alley behind the building. The air was cold, but the shame kept me warm. I thought about the headline again, "Famous Star Paul with the Seamstress." They did not even use my full name. I was just a title, the seamstress. I walked quickly away from the big, beautiful theater. I felt foolish for believing that a man like Paul could truly love an ordinary woman like me. The beautiful night at the hotel now seemed like a very bad dream. 7, he comes home. I stayed inside my small apartment. I did not go out for 2 days. The newspaper photo made me feel very bad. I felt foolish. I thought, Paul is a famous star. He is rich. He cannot truly love a woman like me. I was sad and I cried many times. I thought about the theater. I thought about the damp basement where I worked every day. I decided I could not go back. The shame was too big. I needed to quit my job immediately. I sat down at my kitchen table. I took a piece of paper and a pen. I started to write a letter. This letter was my resignation. I wrote my name, Maria, at the top. I wrote that I was leaving the theater forever. I wrote that I was sorry for the trouble the scandal caused. I felt small and powerless again, just like before Paul arrived. Suddenly, I heard a loud sound. Someone was knocking on my door. It was a very hard, fast knock. I stopped writing the letter. My heart started to beat quickly. I thought it might be the director again, coming to fire me. I was afraid. I walked slowly to the door. I looked through the small hole. It was Paul. He looked worried and a little angry. I opened the door quickly. "Maria, why did you run away?" Paul asked loudly. He stepped inside my small living room. He looked around the simple room. I looked down at the floor. "I was afraid, Paul," I whispered. "I am nobody. I am just a seamstress. You are a star. The newspaper made a scandal. I do not belong in your world. I felt the shame return to my cheeks. I pointed to the letter on the table. I was writing to quit my job. I cannot work there anymore. Paul did not speak about the newspaper. He did not speak about the director. He looked only at me. His kind blue eyes were full of love. He walked closer and hugged me very tight. I felt safe in his arms for the first time in 2 days. Do not ever say you are nobody, Maria, he said. His voice was deep and steady. Listen to me. The world sees my fame. They see the actor. They see the rich man. But that is a mask. That is not the real me. He held my face in his hands. Without you, I am just a man in a mask, he repeated slowly. You are the one who sees me, the real me. You see the man who loves old books and quiet coffee. And I see you, Maria. I need you more than I need my fame or my job. I came home to you. His words were strong and true. I felt my sadness start to leave immediately. 8. A new start. Maria sat next to Paul on the small sofa. She finally understood something important. She had great value. Her life was not over. She was 50 years old, but she felt new and alive. She wiped the tears from her face. She looked at Paul. His blue eyes were full of kindness. He was not looking at her age or her job. He saw her heart. He was smiling at her. This love was real. Maria stood up. She walked to her small closet. She took out her favorite dress. It was a beautiful blue color. She had made the dress herself many years ago when she was younger. The fabric was soft. It fit perfectly now. She put it on carefully. She looked in the mirror. She did not see a tired seamstress who worked in the damp basement. She saw a strong woman who deserved happiness. She fixed her gray hair. She did not care about the wrinkles anymore. She was ready to face the world. Paul took her hand gently. "Are you ready?" he asked. Maria nodded her head once. She knew the theater director would be angry. She knew the young actors would whisper mean things, but she did not feel shame now. She only felt courage and love. They walked out of the apartment building together. The sun was bright and warm on her face. Paul held her hand firmly. They were not hiding anymore. They walked toward the center of the city, toward the big, famous theater. Maria felt a new strength in her legs. She remembered the shame she felt 2 days ago. That bad feeling was gone. They did not use the back door, the invisible door Maria always used for work. They walked straight to the front entrance. It was a grand door made of heavy wood and glass. Paul opened the door for her. They walked inside holding hands. The lobby was full of people. The actors were walking around before the evening show. The director, Mr. Smith, was standing near the ticket window. Everyone stopped talking at the same time. They looked at Paul and Maria. Their eyes were wide with surprise. Mr. Smith looked very angry and red in the face. Maria felt their eyes, but she did not look down at the floor. She held Paul's hand tighter. She kept her head high and straight. She was not just a worker anymore. She was Maria. She was a woman in love with a good man. She was 50 years old, and she was very happy. She was no longer invisible in the shadows of the theater. She was standing in the light. This was not the end of her story. It was a brand new start for them both.